Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel and blog. I'm Jenny Hall. Thanks for joining me for another card making tutorial. Today I am making a cutaway style card in two tones of neutral colors. I'm using Falling Flower stamp set from Stampin' Up, and I like how the images of the flowers are open. You can color them in or you can use them alone as an open floral image. To get a really stark contrast on the paper today, I'm going to be doing some white heat embossing. To start the project, I have a piece of basic gray cardstock that is cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I first treat the cardstock with an embossing buddy. Inside that little canvas bag is some kind of magic powder that keeps any of the oils from my hand or from anything else that I've picked up from sticking to the embossing powder. Especially whenever I'm using darker cardstock on any kind of embossing, I want to make really sure that I do take those extra precautions to make sure that there's no extra granules of the embossing that are going to stick to the cardstock, or else they'll be able to be seen in the finished project. I like the way this stamp set has thickly drawn lines, and what it's going to result in is a really thick lined embossing, which is really going to show up as white against the gray. That's why I chose this stamp set. Some stamp sets are drawn with thin lines, but the thick lines on these stamps are going to be lovely in a card. To make the stamping, I am using Versamark ink on top of that treated cardstock, and Versamark is a clear sticky ink. And what it does for me is it allows the embossing powder, which is in tiny granules, to stick to the ink, and then I'll use a heat gun to set it in place. And then this is going to create a texture. It reminds me of like a raised plastic. So I'm adding the floral images, and I'm using all the stamps from this set. And I don't want to overlap them too much. I want to just put them out at random to where they are going to lay against each other. I am being careful not to stamp on the bottom fourth of the card because I'm going to cut away that portion after the cardstock has already been heat set. Making sure that I get images that appear to be stamped off and partially stamped on the cardstock is important to me, because what it's going to do is pull the eye out to the whole image of the flowers instead of kind of getting drawn down into the middle of the cardstock. If I were to just place some images that were completely on the card and they didn't go off a little bit, then it would give me a different dimensional look. Here is white heat embossed powder, and there's lots of different things you can do with embossing. There's dry embossing and heat embossing, and this is one way that you can enhance a card. It will give you some nice texture and a very striking look to a card. There's metallic embossing and there's clear embossing. There's all sorts, and I would encourage you to experiment and play with what works best for you. I'm using a coffee filter to catch all of that extra embossing powder, and then I just slide it right back into the container that it came from. I'm using a paintbrush to get all of those little extra grains of embossing powder away from the cardstock. Sometimes, even though I treat the cardstock with the embossing buddy, there's still little bits of granules that will stick in different places. The easiest way to solve this is to grab any kind of a paintbrush, and in my experience, the softer the paintbrush, the better, and just remove them yourself. This is also a really good time to be able to go along the lines if there was any crooked stamping or if the stamp rocked a little bit. Then this is your only chance before it's heat set to get that taken care of. I'm using my scissors to fussy cut around the edge of the stamped images, and as you can see, it creates a kind of drop look to the Floral Images. This is going to set the gray cardstock away from the white cardstock. I'm using a sentiment from All Things Thanks that is a very simple sentiment that says you're the best. This card is going to be used for any different occasion. You can do you're the best for just about anything. I'm using a different ink to do the cardstock itself, and it's Smoky Slate ink, and I stamped off and used a 3rd generation. Except the bottom right hand corner, I used a full generation in order to draw the eye all the way down. I'm using Stampin' Dimensionals to attach the top part down to the card base, and inside the card will be an opportunity to put any kind of sentiment that you need whenever the time arises to use the card. Thank you all for joining me for another card tutorial. I invite you to go over to my blog at jennystampsup.com, and there every single day you will find a brand new card idea. This and many different ideas are featured on my blog. Thanks for joining me again. I'll see you in the next video.
Hi, my name is Trip. Thanks for watching the video. See you next time.